Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The New World. In today's video, we talk about an ongoing discussion between the past and present, and that is the careers of the 2015 MVP Cam Newton and the current Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. Now, this conversation has been brought up throughout the season after Newton throwing Hurts in the category of game managers instead of game changers. This, of course, upset Philly fans and mainly Jalen Hurts fans, which then sparked the conversation. And after Hurts' recent Super Bowl victory and Super Bowl MVP, it not only has been said amongst fans that Hurts is now a top 5 quarterback in the league, but also better than Cam Newton all time. And with that being said, we will discuss this debate and give our takes on the conversation. But before we go any further, make sure to hit that subscribe button and help us on the road to 10K subs. Hit that like button if you enjoy the content, and make sure to hit share if you enjoy this video. And comment who you think is better all time, Hurts or Newton. Now Bardo, we discussed this debate. Is Jalen Hurts now a top 5 quarterback in the league after his recent Super Bowl victory and the Super Bowl MVP on top of it? And do you think this has made him better than Cam Newton on the all-time list?
All right. Let's answer the second question first. I really don't want to spend too much time talking about the Cam Newton element of it, really, because I really think it's unfair and I think it's rather lame that a lot of people are making this a Cam versus Jalen Hurts debate when what's wrong with somebody giving their opinion on who they think are the best players in the NFL? Cam Newton is a player, but he also is an NFL fan, and it's a bunch of niggas that did not play in the NFL, that probably never even played high school football, that are out there giving their opinion on takes of who's better than who. Couldn't even dream or fathom being as successful as a Cam Newton, but you're saying, oh, Joe, you're mad because Jalen Hurts is better than you. I don't really understand where all that backlash is coming from. It's just a man giving his opinion, and this is an MVP at that. Jalen Hurts will never win an MVP. Jalen Hurts will never carry a team the way that Cam Newton did. Now, I will say this. Kid Cam Newton, with his ego, would he be able to navigate with the role of a Jalen Hurts and take that team to a Super Bowl? I don't know. Probably not. But if we're just talking about their talent in the vacuum, we all know who the better talent is. I think it's evident. Jalen Hurts being a top 5 quarterback, I feel like it's irresponsible. Really, from the standpoint of this is basically, and Jay alluded to this in our video about Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals. It's all about team success. Because if people want to think about Jalen Hurts, man, the way that they evaluate this guy is really just hilarious to me. I feel like a lot of the reason why people like him is because of like some of his comments and his attitude and some of the things that he says, which in my opinion, somebody that reads through a lot of people, it comes across as rather lame to me and a little just inorganic. Because where are all these quotes in the 2023 season when they're getting their asses handed to them and they're supposed to be one of the most talented rosters? He's over here turning the football over every fucking game. And then there's locker room issues. Where's all the leadership and all of the charisma then? But now he gets all of the credit and all of the praise for this team winning. And I haven't even put on my Super Bowl ring yet. We don't give a fuck, Jalen Hurts. We really don't, bro. Let's just talk about what actually happened in the 2024 season, because this is something niggas is not talking about. The team started off 1-3, and they really honestly could have started off 0-4, but it was because, the Green Bay Packers, they were out there bullshitting down there in Brazil. I don't know what the hell was going on with them that game, but Jordan Love was terrible in that football game, and the Philadelphia Eagles really won that game like just by hairs, just by inches. They really won that game by inches. They shouldn't have won that football game. Because when I was watching that football game after them coming from a terrible, terrible, terrible loss to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who had their number in the wild card game. When I'm watching this game and then, leading up to it, we were hearing a lot of comments that, the niggas didn't even want to be down there. AJ Brown complaining, which we going to get to him in a minute. But all of the complaining and the whining, I was like, man, does this team really got a Jalen Hurts problem from a leadership perspective? Nick Sirianni, is he even going to last throughout the season? Those are some of the conversations that the fellas and I were having, because it wasn't even making any sense. This is before the season even started. So let's talk. We have to break that season into two, essentially, because there's a big shift that underwent in this season that niggas will not talk about. First 4 weeks of the season, they were 1-4. Let's just analyze some of Jalen Hurts' passing stats in those first 4 games. He's attempting 35.8 passes a game. Completion percentage 60.4%. 231 passing yards per game. 4 touchdowns to 5 interceptions with a passer rating of 77. Is that top 5? I personally don't think so. He was ineffective. He was turnover prone. The offense had no rhythm or identity. And I want to hand that off to Buffy to actually go into why we're seeing some of those limitations with Jalen Hurts. But let's just keep it from a statistical perspective. Now, after week 4, Kellen Moore did something that was very, very intelligent. Oh, we have Saquon Barkley on our football team. We also have the best offensive line in the league. Why don't we just run the football and be a run-dominant team? Let's take the football out of Jalen Hurts' hands because he's turning the ball over way too much. Let's put it in Saquon Barkley's hands and make Jalen Hurts the game manager. Oh, weeks 5 through 18, his passing attempts went from 35 to 26 a game. Completion percentage goes up, 66%. Touchdown to interception ratio, 18 to 8. Barkley, his rushing yards, he's averaging 100 rushing yards a game. Team rushing is top 5 in NFL. Are y'all seeing a pattern? Jalen Hurts is not somebody that he's not in that Patrick Mahomes mode. He's not in that Josh Allen mode or that Joe Burrow or that Lamar Jackson or even a Justin Herbert or even some of these other guys that are worthy of being in that top 5. He's not that. He's in the Baker Mayfields of the world and the Jared Goffs. He's in that category. You have to put things around him for him to look good to great. And how I analyze Jalen Hurts is like a Brock Purdy. And I don't even think that he's really, from a passing perspective, better than Brock Purdy. But if you want to put Jalen Hurts over Brock Purdy, I'm not mad at that. You have to build everything around them to make them look good. And you could take 10 to 15 quarterbacks, put them on that team, and they could do the same shit. That's how I feel about Jalen Hurts. Now, what Jalen Hurts maximizes in is his physicals. So him being, pound for pound, one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league and being able to do that push bullshit, which I hate, but it's very effective. Being able to do that, because essentially, if it's 3rd and 4, they can get a first down. That's very, very valuable. We may not like it, but it's valuable. It's a valuable commodity. They do that shit. They're the best at doing that. So you have that working for you. He also is very, he's sort of dynamic. He's not fast or anything like that, but he's a very powerful runner with the football. I mean, he can throw a very good deep ball. That's about it, honestly. So can I take 10 to 12 other niggas and put them in that? Yes, I can do that. Kellen Moore is a great OC. He worked with Dak Prescott. Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott, they had 12-5 seasons, multiple occasions. So that's something that niggas aren't talking about either, because what was the problem in 2023? Basically the same fucking team without Saquon Barkley. You add Saquon Barkley, you got the same team, you run the football with him, and then you're going to the Super Bowl. And so that's really what I want people to do. I just want people to just be honest about this conversation, because niggas are not being honest. And when you start talking about comparing Jalen Hurts to other quarterbacks, what I would like to do is take those guys, like for niggas that are saying that he's better than Joe Burrow, just delusion. It's either Philly fans or niggas that don't like Joe Burrow or niggas that just want to. You got quarterback win niggas. So when is quarterback wins a stat? So basically, if a quarterback wins a lot of games, he's great? No. Because one thing that my boy Buffy, he was showing us like some, Tim Tebow shit. Like Tim Tebow in that little, 2011 run, they won a lot of games. He was ass. They won a lot of games because of what? Off the back of the defense. And John Fox taking the football out of his hands. Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni did the same thing with Jalen Hurts. Like, bro, you are not good enough for us to win off of your arm. Your arm is not good enough. Your processing is not good enough. Let's run the football. They did that. He swallowed his ego, because one thing that I don't hear people talking about, Jalen Hurts clearly has an ego. I don't care what people are saying, because why are him and the head coach still not getting along? They're winning and they're not getting along. I think it's very simple. The coach is like, look, bro, I love you, but you're not a great thrower of the football, so we got to run the football. And then Jalen Hurts is going to have this, bravado, stern, and he's cultivated a nice image for himself. I got to give him credit for that. Him and them niggas at Clutch Sports, they cultivated a very phenomenal image for him. But I'm not fucking buying it. I see right through that shit. Jalen Hurts and I think that he likes the attention that he's getting. He want to throw that football just like any other quarterback would want to do. You want the ball in your hands. He's just not good enough. That's why niggas like A.J. Brown are still frustrated, haven't won a Super Bowl, and still said, oh yeah, I won that Super Bowl, and it didn't really make me happy. He's saying that because he's not getting the football. Because he knows as long as he stays on this team, he's not going to be in one of those upper echelon receivers of having a lot of gaudy stats like the Jamar Chases of the world or the Jettas of the world. He's not going to be in that tier because Jalen Hurts is not good enough. They figured him out after that 2022 season. They figured him out. 2023 was his year to take it to another level. He couldn't do that. So that's kind of where I stand on him. And if people want to see, my thing is, if the Philadelphia Eagles are smart, they'll continue playing the way that they've been playing until the wheels fall off with Saquon Barkley. Then hopefully they can find another running back or a group of running backs, a collective, to fill in his stead. Because niggas are acting like Saquon Barkley is just going to have the same year he did last year. It's kind of highly unlikely. Running backs don't typically have back-to-back seasons with that amount of production, that amount of carry, that amount of usage. Doesn't really happen. So good luck, Philadelphia Eagle fans. I don't see you guys making it back to the Super Bowl. I think that there is a lot of influx within the NFC. So if it happened, it wouldn't shock me, but I don't see it. And I also think that your own division is going to give you problems because not even talking about the Washington Commanders, even though they have some issues, but that quarterback not going no damn where. And like I said, when Dak Prescott is healthy, the Cowboys, like him or hate him, if Dak Prescott is healthy, they're going to win some games. So they're going to be competitive. They always have given the Philadelphia Eagles issues. So that's going to be something that you guys have to go into. And that's kind of how I see it right now. And that's not even talking about you getting back to the AFC. And I hope that you go against a team like the Buffalo Bills or really like the Baltimore Ravens. And then we can really see how great Jalen Hurts really is. Because I'm so tired of like niggas being evaluated in the sets based off of quarterback wins. It's stupid. It's the same thing with Brock Purdy. We wanted to get Brock Purdy. At least he had a bunch of passing stats. Like we could look at his stats and just say, oh man, number one in QBR and like all of these other stats. We could just be like, oh yeah, Brock Purdy is really dominant. You can make that argument from a statistical perspective. I can't do that with Jalen Hurts. 18 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. 8 interceptions over that 13-game span where they won a bunch of games in a row. That's not great. That's game manager-like to me. And I feel like that's all that Cam Newton was saying was like, okay, we'll give this guy credit for, winning a Super Bowl, being a Super Bowl MVP, leading the team. Okay, we'll put you in the top 10. But I can't put you any higher than that because you're just not great enough. And we take all those other guys that we have ranked ahead of you, they would have won a Super Bowl too. I can name like all of those guys that Cam Newton ranked ahead of Jalen Hurts would have won the Super Bowl in 2024. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I think the discourse between Cam Newton and Jalen Hurts, I think is very, very interesting. Just going off of what I was saying post Super Bowl, I was like, okay, if the Eagles win, knowing Philly fans, knowing how Philly fans are always going to be, and knowing the discourse surrounding Jalen Hurts, I was like, it's gonna be bad for the league. And what did I say? It was bad for the league. Like after the whole championship round, you got people on social media saying, Jalen Hurts is in the modicum of like Patrick Mahomes, stuff like that. And, it's got the whole discourse has got kind of ridiculous. And we kind of hit a peak right now where, we're debating on who's better between Cam Newton and Jalen Hurts, which I think is funny. Now, I will say this, though. Jalen Hurts definitely has over his career span, if you do like a log of the statistics, he probably edges out Cam Newton. But the thing is, Cam Newton, I thought his value and his impact was more gargantuan than Jalen Hurts. I think Cam Newton, and you can really look back on Cam Newton since the Auburn days, but he's always been able to lead teams, poor offenses, and that offense was kind of poor if you just look at the offense in 2015. And many people don't like saying that. It is what it is. Offense wasn't really good. They had 6 Pro Bowls on the team, including Cam Newton, but one of them is Mike Tolbert, and I believe like the other ones were kind of on defense. They had the best defense in the league, so I give them. Well, actually, like the second best defense in the league because I forgot the no-fly zone. Denver Broncos, they were that year, so they had a really top defense. So I give them that, but offensively, they were not great, and Cam Newton definitely held the fort down. If you look back at some of those wide receivers like Philly Brown, Ted Ginn Jr., man, like Kelvin Benjamin, like dog. If you give Jalen Hurts those guys, he's gonna be in jail. And looking at Jalen Hurts, never thrown over 4,000 yards for a season, never thrown over 23 touchdowns a season. Kevin Newton threw like 35 touchdowns that season, I believe. And he rushed for quite a bit. But my thing with Jalen Hurts in the discourse is like, okay, like if many people think he's as great as they think he is, okay, like he has 2,000-yard rusher. I give him that. But why is he not putting up seasons? Like, I'm not saying he has to put up a Lamar Jackson season, but Lamar Jackson, he had a 1,900-yard rusher, and he still threw for 4,000 yards, and almost ran for 1,000. So, you look at stuff like that, and I understand. Jalen Hurts, he played 12 games last season, so he missed a couple games. So, he didn't even throw for 3,000 yards, and thought that was just interesting. That he did take the ball out of his hands, and the offense functioned way better. But still, the ball is taken out your hands. You should still be more efficient. That's kind of how it goes. If you're throwing on volume, your numbers are gonna be juiced up, but your efficiency kind of goes in the mud. But if you're getting less time to throw the ball, your efficiency should go up. And we really didn't see that to the modicum. We've seen other players in that scenario. And you gotta look at guys like Jared Goff. Jared Goff, he put some gaudy numbers in the Detroit offense. And they have a high chain offense. So you kind of gotta look at it with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's like, okay, like Jalen Hurts, is he really the guy? Because 2022 was his best season. 2022, for a good portion of the year, he was actually threatening the MVP with Patrick Mahomes until he kind of trod off, at the end. But 2022 he had a great season. 2023, it was ups and downs, and then this season was kind of almost the same as Bart already alluded to, where they were putting the ball in his hands in the first couple games, and he wasn't playing good. Now, my thing is with this conversation though, I feel like fans, they're like, oh, well, hey, team that Cam Newton played in the Super Bowl, Denver Broncos, they weren't that good. They had Peyton Manning as quarterback, and it's like I don't know if we're seeing the same team. I don't know if we are, because that Denver Broncos team, debatable if they're the best defensive team of that era. You can really debate them and the Legion of Boom, because they were phenomenal. Like I read a stat earlier. They played Aaron Rodgers earlier in the games. Held them to 77 yards passing. Prime Aaron Rodgers, 77 yards passing. We saw they did it to Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game. That was like, and then Tom Brady, he almost still tied that game up. Like, they only really lost that game because of that 2-point conversion. But Tom Brady still kind of held his own in that. And just looking at the support that Cam Newton had around him, I don't think it was crazy that he lost. Now, he did kind of go out in kind of a bad manner, and he kind of was the same after. Even though in 2018 he had kind of a great year. 2018, through like the first 8 games, he had a better statistical reputation than he did in 2015. But we got T.J. Watt to blame because he threw his shoulder out of place. So he's never been the same after that. Fuck T.J. Watt. So yeah, I think the discourse between the whole thing is kind of stupid. It's like, I think Jalen Hurts, his biggest advantage is he's a gamer. Most important games he's going to show up. I'll give him that, but you're not counting on him as much as you're counting on other players. I think if you're going to evaluate quarterbacks for the most part, it's things like this. It's like, okay, a guy's playing better throughout the whole regular season, not even close. They'll get to playoffs, he'll have like a good game in the divisional round. And, he kind of mellows out after that. Versus, you got a guy who, takes the back seat, and then, once the biggest games come around, he starts playing really, really well, and he starts selling. I feel like that's what the dichotomy is between Cam Newton and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts, he's kind of living the dream, man, because it's like he has a top 2 receiving core in the league, offensive line protects him well. We've seen this. Hasn't been pressured that much, and most of his pressures are because of him. Like, I remember the game they had in the NFC. It wasn't the NFC Championship game, but the game they had against the Rams. The Rams almost knocked them off, and Jalen Hurts took many sacks where it was multiple seconds. As a quarterback, you have a timer in your head. 2 to 3 seconds. We see this with guys like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow gets the ball out fast because you're expecting 2 seconds. The defense is going to get to you. Jalen Hurts, he's waiting in the pocket, and there's receivers open. Like, that's not the issue. There's receivers open. You've got great receivers. You have arguably the best number 2 in the league. You can make an argument. And AJ Brown is, a top 5 receiver in the league. So you got great receivers around you. You have a great tight end. You got to get the job done. And especially, if you're facing more boxed in defenses, because the running game, you would assume. I haven't looked at their analytics, but I know the Baltimore Ravens, they kind of operate in a similar way where, they want to run the football, and then after that, they want to throw the football. So, but Lamar's is way better at it than Jalen Hurts. So, that's kind of the difference. So, and I think many of the Philly fans are kind of forgetting that, the whole discourse between Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles last season at the end was passing. We remember AJ Brown, he was saying that, passing, that's what they need to work on. So, gotta look at Jalen Hurts, and I'm not trying to be too harsh on Jalen Hurts. I think his ranking in this entire list being 9, I think that's a good spot for him. But we can't act like if you substitute the other guys in his place, they wouldn't perform well. Guys, Justin Herbert. If you take the pressure off Justin Herbert, he'll be a great quarterback too. Now that's hypothetical, and we know Justin Herbert is hypothetical, man, as of now. But it still kind of rings true. Like other guys, if you put them into this offense, they'll function a lot more better. Shout out to well, actually, I was gonna say shout out to the media, but the media has been covering this situation pretty badly, and the whole think pieces on Twitter have been insane, diabolical. Like I saw somebody downplay the 2015 Denver Broncos. Like they had a bad offense, but they had a historically great defense. Like you can rate their defense top 5 all time. So Cam Newton was playing that against kind of bums at the wide receiver position. If you've seen Ted Ginn play, Ted Ginn had talent, speed wise, but the brother had bricks for hands. He had bricks for hands. There's an entire montage. We can edit in this video. I don't know if we are, but there's an entire montage of Ted Ginn just dropping passes that hit his hands. And now I understand Cam Newton isn't the most accurate, but it's like, dude, if a pass hits your hands and like no defender is near you, there's no reason why you shouldn't be dropping the ball. There's no reason why you shouldn't be dropping the ball. And Ted Ginn was routinely doing that. And that was kind of the lead guy that Cam Newton was throwing the ball to. So I can't really take that offense that seriously. It's kind of more impressive. Even Cam Newton, if you just look at his passer analytics that season, if you rank him against other MVP seasons, they're not that great. But just looking at who he's throwing the ball to, it's like okay, his statistics are kind of better than what we're looking at. It's kind of the situation to me with Josh Allen last year. Like Josh Allen, his analytics, his passing totals weren't that great, but it was like he's throwing the ball to like a slot receiver, a rookie receiver, and then a special teams guy. So Cam Newton was doing the same shit pretty much. So I think Cam Newton is right. I think the whole discourse between people trying to slaughter Cam Newton, slaughter his name, saying he's overrated, I think it's asinine. Cam Newton was a great player at his peak. Now his peak didn't last long, but he was a great player at his peak. I think that's unquestionably, and he was honestly the best player in football in 2015. Think that goes out for debate. I don't think anybody's going to be like, hey, and honestly, this is in the league with Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. Like this is like Matt Ryan. This is like the peak of like quarterback play, like pocket quarterback play. And Cam Newton was the best player in the league for a year, so I think that should be taken for granted with a little more than just Jalen Hurts playing great in Super Bowls against Patrick Mahomes. Like, I think it's a little more impressive. So.
Also, last thing, no, 2 things actually. In that season, that 2015 season where Cam Newton won MVP, I remember this because I would, be watching like first take videos and stuff on my phone. They were having convos like saying that Cam Newton was the LeBron of the NFL. That was actually one of those media convos they were having. They're never gonna have that convo about Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry. And second thing, guys like Kevin Wildes, I just like exposing some of these fraudulent media personalities because they don't know anything about sports. If I have to hear another one of your, oh, this guy is winning, so that makes him better than this other guy, that's the fucking dumbest argument I've ever. The quarterback wins stats are ridiculous. Just because you're on a team that wins a lot of games doesn't make you a great quarterback. It doesn't. So because Jalen Hurts is on a team that has a lot of success, it makes him better than a Josh Allen who didn't make it to the Super Bowl. No, that's stupid. That's dumb. Because if that's the case, then we got to put some of those guys like that won Super Bowls. It's really like the Terry Bradshaw argument. Like, bro, just because you're on a team that's won a lot of games doesn't put you ahead of like an Aaron Rodgers or somebody or a Peyton Manning. Like, no, just because you have a lot of rings doesn't make you. It's Robert Horry. So basically, Jalen Hurts and Robert Horry, they're the best players in their respective sports, essentially.
Yeah, I think the thing with Philly fans is like it's not really like Robert Horry. It's more like I'm trying to explain it, man. But it's more like a player like I don't want to say Jaylen Brown. Let me say Jaylen Brown. It's like a player who plays great on that finals level. Jaylen Brown honestly offensively didn't play that great, 2024. But just hit a point out. So it's like you play great on the final stage, the Super Bowl stage, and they look at that, they're like, oh, hey. This is, he played against one of the best players of his era. Patrick Mahomes is the best player of his era. My fault. But yeah, I played them, and people they look at it, they're like, "Hey, man, we can put these guys in conversations over players that won MVPs, current players that won MVPs." And I think that's the bad thing about sports debates is like you can't evaluate sports like that. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Terry Bradshaw, that brother was a demon in the playoffs, but in the regular season he was kind of mid, but he was a demon in the playoffs. But I think the point still stands. Like one game doesn't, in my opinion, overvalue like the regular season. Like if he plays like next season, if he plays good to great in the regular season, then has a great championship performance next season, okay, then I'll look at that differently. But you can't be mediocre in the regular season. Basically get backpacked all the way up to the Super Bowl. He really only had 2 games. He really only had 2 good games that postseason. Last 2 games they played, and I believe the game against the Commanders, they had like 7 rushing touchdowns, something like that. He really didn't even need to throw the football in that game. I remember the first possession of offense, Saquon Barkley took it to the house. So you have a shit like that go for you. So yeah, but Jay, you can intervene.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad we got to talk about this because these Philly fans and these Jalen Hurts fans are just like the delusion is it's crazy. Like there's no logic in it, and like it's kind of getting annoying at this point, especially kind of piggybacking off of what Buffy said with the whole Ted Ginn thing and what he sent us. Like they were basically hyping up Ted Ginn as if he was like Deshaun Jackson at the time, bro. Like he was that good of a deep threat, bro. Like no, Cam Newton, he basically mainly carried that offense. That he carried the offense that 2015 season. They had a great defense, but that offense, like, come on now, Cam Newton was the big motor to that. Like Jonathan Stewart, Mike Tolbert, that's not putting fear in me. Like Ted Ginn Jr., that's not putting fear in me. Like Cam Newton was the only person putting fear in me. And then Cam Newton 6'4" demon. Like let's get it real. And I guess continuing off that 2015 season, man, this whole discourse over him not diving on the football, like I get it. Like I get it. As a football player, you're supposed to put, your heart all out there, especially on the biggest stage in football. But in no way, shape, or form was that Panthers team still gonna beat the Broncos, even if he dove on that ball and they, punted it on 4th and 20. And then I was seeing, people say, oh, well, he might go for it on 4th and 20. No, why? Like, do you see how stacked that defense was? They're called the no-fly zone for a reason. Like, you seriously think they're going to convert on 4th and 20 against that secondary? No. And the time, he didn't really have that much time with that D-line. That D-line was scary. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, like, what are we doing? Like, if people actually, especially these Eagles fans, they took the logic, put it in their brains and actually paid attention to how great this Broncos defense was that Cam Newton had to go against, you can really see why. Especially, with Buffy bringing up the stats, they held Aaron Rodgers to 77 passing yards. They beat the GOAT. And, credit to Tom Brady for almost coming back, but they still beat the GOAT. Like, and you telling me Jalen Hurts, like, you telling me Jalen Hurts is going to do better than that? Like, I don't even think Jalen Hurts probably might not even put up, numbers against that defense. Like, in the Super Bowl, he might not even be able to score. So, this whole Jalen Hurts thing, I mean, I guess I won't be mad if you throw him in, the 5th spot, like, because Justin Herbert, it was disappointing in the playoffs. Jared Goff, you could say he's better than Jalen Hurts, but I don't mind putting Jalen Hurts over Jared Goff over the fact that Jalen Hurts having to make a Super Bowl, even though I did think the Lions were going to make the Super Bowl if their defense was healthy. I think a lot of people can say that if they actually look at it. I don't mind, hearing Baker Mayfield over Jalen Hurts, even though Matthew Stafford's old, very, very much older, he's still a dog. At the end of the day, I definitely would want to have, Matthew Stafford go win me a game over Jalen Hurts. Like, and people will, they always call this type of stuff hate, especially when even if you bring up the stats, they call it hate. But if you look at, like Bardo said, you look at what Jalen Hurts did, throughout this season. To start off the season, he was trying to throw the ball, and it did not work out for him. But when they actually looked at oh, they have this great running back as Saquon Barkley, who when he touches the ball, he makes things happen. Look what happens. Averaging 100 yards, top 5, rushing team. Now they're winning all these games. They're going on win streaks. And look at him now. And then you look in the playoffs, he did it, going against that Washington team. He was breaking records like Saquon Barkley. That was Saquon Barkley's season. Like, there's no way, even though Jalen Hurts won Super Bowl MVP, like, there's no way you just look off that season and was like, oh yeah, that's thanks to Jalen Hurts. Like, no, Jalen Hurts did his job. He just happened to do it well. And to say that he was the only person who could do what he did, no. Like, plenty of quarterbacks can do that. Mahomes could do that on that team. Burrow could do that on that team. Lamar could do that on that team. Josh Allen could do that on that team. Baker Mayfield on that team. Jared Goff on that team. Jaden Daniels on that team. And they could do it on that team, and their stats might look better, especially passing wise. Like, even though Jalen Hurts still had attempts, it still wasn't always necessarily efficient. Like, if you throw in especially the top 4 quarterbacks, they'll do it. They could do it efficiently and then still get the job done. Like, I'm really getting tired of it. I really kind of want Jalen Hurts to be put in a tough situation to where we actually see how great he is. Because honestly, if you look at the landscape of Jalen Hurts' career, he's really always been in a really good spot, especially in college. Like, he played for Alabama. Like, he played for Alabama, now he's going to Philly. Especially, like, you can't really tell me that this Philly team is not a great organization. Like, this team won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles as their quarterback against Tom Brady. And you telling me, so if that's the case, if Jalen Hurts is this great of a quarterback, I guess Nick Foles was a top 5 quarterback after winning, Super Bowl. And what was that, 2018? Like, that's basically what you're trying to tell me. And, with this whole, like, Jalen Hurts is better than, like, some people saying Jalen Hurts is better than Joe Burrow just because he won the Super Bowl. So that's like saying, I guess Jaylen Brown is a better basketball player than Luka Doncic just because he won, the finals. That's what you're telling me, honestly. And I don't know why we have to argue about this, but we have these fans with the egos and without logic, and it's kind of getting annoying. Like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm hating on Jalen Hurts, but it is true. Like, I'm just going off what I'm seeing, and this is what I'm constantly seeing. And I don't see Jalen Hurts getting no better, because if he does try and be a better passer, they're not going to do what they just did. Like, I honestly think the Eagles will probably get back to another Super Bowl. While they have Saquon Barkley under contract, it will be tougher going into this season because now they got to face the Dallas Cowboys, who will get Dak back, and now they got George Pickens as well. The Commanders team, they just added Deebo Samuel. I don't know how dangerous that'll be, but we got the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. We got the Lions back. They'll get a lot of their guys back, especially Aiden Hutchinson. Hopefully, he'll look somewhat the same after that gruesome leg injury, but it won't be as easy as it was. I'm not gonna say it was super easy, but as easy as it was to get to Super Bowl like it was this past season. So Jalen Hurts is gonna have to continue to show that he's not just a game manager, because he really is. Like, I'm sorry to say it. I'm really not sorry to say it, but we're just going off what we're looking at. He's a game manager. Hopefully he gets put in a spot where he has to be a game changer. I hope if he does go to the Super Bowl, I really hope he faces off against a Josh Allen, or especially a Lamar Jackson. Because if he goes up against Lamar Jackson, or Lamar Jackson is gonna make him. I'm sorry, Lamar Jackson might make him look like a scrub. Like, Lamar Jackson, best player in football right now. He does everything way better than Jalen Hurts, and he's in basically the same situation as Jalen Hurts. So if we saw them in the Super Bowl, I mean, the numbers would be, Lamar Jackson, like, you can't see where my hand is. Lamar Jackson up here, and Jalen Hurts is way down here. Like I hate to say it, but that's reality.
But
So-
like this production, it's like a minute drop in the playoffs. So it's like, I mean, I'm not saying that.
Now Lamar Jackson, now granted, Lamar Jackson is, his production does drop, and for some odd reason does not look like, exactly like he was in the regular season where he wins MVPs. But I still think I could, trust Lamar Jackson to do his job better than Jalen Hurts, but I could be wrong because Jalen Hurts, he does win football games. I will say that he's a winning player, but to say that he's just the top of the top, the best of the best, I can't say it because I haven't seen him really be put in a situation where he has to do it for a good period of time. Like I haven't seen a multiple game stretch where they got to rely on Jalen Hurts when Saquon Barkley's getting shut down or something. Like I haven't seen it yet. And now they did lose some pieces in the defense too. So, I mean, we shall see, man. We shall see.
I can make an argument that we did see it 2023 and he struggled. That's what and my thing was like, what was crazy about that season was the talent was the same. The talent was literally the same. Now, people want to talk about the defense being bad. Yes, because that was like my problem with the 2024 team is like, I didn't think they were going to be that good because I thought the defense was going to be bad. But that hasn't changed what we saw in offense. In offense, we saw some bad shit, especially down the stretch of that season. Now, some niggas want to talk about injuries. But like I said, beginning of 2024, we were seeing the same stuff, which was ball in this guy's hands, him not being able to get it done on a lot of volume. That's like, and I feel like we're all on the united front when we're saying this stuff. Not saying that Jalen Hurts is a bum. We're just saying that, bro, you got a lot of talent on your team. We can't just call you the best, especially when there's no statistical proof for us to put you there. We're basically just saying it's all about bullshit like leadership and him being a gamer. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. But does that put you in top 5? No, bro, it really don't. And it damn sure don't put you in what some people are saying, oh, the only person that's better than him is Patrick. That's stupid to me. That's literally just you just going off of like being blinded by the aura. And I don't even really think it's a whole lot of aura there. I just feel like Jalen Hurts is given a lot of wannabe, like he's one of those types of guys that basically studied and watched the Last Dance documentary and was like, I'm basically just gonna make this my life, essentially. I'm just gonna make this my personality. Jalen Hurts, you're not fucking Michael Jordan. You're not that caliber of a leader. Cause bro, I'm gonna say this and then we're gonna end the video. It is so easy to be the dog with all this charisma when you're winning. But when Jalen Hurts was losing, 2023, we couldn't find him. We had all of these passive-aggressive quotes and, oh, Jalen Hurts, does he have a problem with Nick Sirianni? Where's the leadership then? That's what I want to see. I don't care about all of the tough guy quotes when you're winning when you're winning games. You got the best running back in the league behind you and all the offensive weapons and the best O-line. I don't want to hear about the leadership because he sounds real big and real bold when they're winning. But we cannot find them. I can't get none of these noteworthy quotes when they're down, when they're losing. I don't see them. That's why I lost a lot of respect for him because I'm like, in 2022, when he was second in MVP voting, everybody was talking about the leadership. And we had all the quotes and stuff, all the TikTok edits. I even fell victim to that. I was like, oh yeah, Jalen Hurts, he that guy. But in 2023, when you have a little bit of turmoil in that locker room, even though they had a good record, they started the season off really well, but they have a little bit of turmoil, a little bit of friction. I can't find you. No, bro. No. You don't get to be inserted into, we don't get to start commending your leadership when you have a bad stretch like that. Especially when the reason why they won is not because of the leadership. They had the best talent. They weren't winning these games because of leadership. They win these games because they had the most talent. Because people still don't even think that Nick Sirianni is a great coach. A lot of people thought that he was a joke. It's the same nigga that was shaving his head during the regular season and yelling at fans. Like, bro, what? No, absolutely not. I can't give that to him, bro. I just can't give that to him. That's all I gotta say. Any last thoughts, fellas, before we end this shit, man? Because
them quotes not fooling Jalen Hurts.
Stay